This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
Well, I'm Doug Jardine, and I'm the Extension Row Crop Pathologist for Kansas State University. And this winter, while we're out talking to farmers, there's a few diseases that were significant in the 2016 cropping season that we're discussing with them. And the three most important ones, the first one is a disease called southern rust. And that is a disease that has been around Kansas for a long time, but for reasons we're not quite sure about, we think perhaps weather-related. The last 2 years it's been especially severe. And we've been actually able to go into some replicated hybrid test plots and show yield losses with an average of about 10%, and in certain really susceptible hybrids, maybe as high as 25%. So you can see if you have 150 or 200 bushel corn, that would be a significant amount. Fortunately, we do have hybrids that are pretty resistant to it, and there are also fungicides available that can be used. So as we're talking to the growers this winter, we discussed some of those management options for them. Then the second disease we've been talking a lot about, again, is one that's been around for a long time. It's an ear rot disease called Diplodia. And if you look hard enough, you can find Diplodia somewhere in Kansas pretty much every year. But this year, because of specific weather conditions, it was an epidemic. It's been the worst that I've seen in my 32 years in Kansas. And those specific conditions were in areas of the state where we got a lot of rainfall at silking and then extended out for about 2 weeks after silking. This particular fungus enters the ear through the silks. It likes really wet weather, and so where we have heavy rains at and just after silking, if the fungus is present at some level in the field, we can get significant infection. And that's what happened this year. Two particularly hard-hit areas of the state were south central Kansas and the Kansas River Valley. Diplodia, on the good side, doesn't produce any mycotoxins, so it's not a danger to cattle for feeding. But because it penetrates the cob, it causes the cob to shatter as it goes through the combine, and you get a lot of foreign material in the load. And when you take that to the elevator, you can get a significant dockage. And so that's been the main concern with growers, is not necessarily the actual yield loss, but the dockage from foreign material at the elevator. The final disease is a bacterial disease, which is brand new not only to Kansas, but to the United States. We're calling it Bacterial Streak. And we've simply been showing producers pictures of what the disease looks like so that they can become familiar with it and maybe begin to look at it in the upcoming 2017 season. And the main thing we're emphasizing is it looks a lot like gray leaf spot, the most common leaf disease of corn. And so we're trying to give them some keys where they can separate out, do I have gray leaf spot or I have bacterial leaf streak? Because if it's gray leaf spot, then they can go ahead and apply a fungicide and manage it. If it's bacterial streak, there's really not much they can do at this point. And we're trying to avoid people putting fungicides on the bacterial disease because it's not going to work. So those are the main issues that we're addressing at our winter schools this year.
I was in an accident where I fell off a roof. I don't know why I started to research stem cells, but I did. And I visited with the doctors. They were excellent. I had my neck done, my shoulders done, section of my back, my hips, my sacrum, my sciatica, and my tailbone. Now I am having better range of motion in my arms and my neck and my back. It was a long road to get there, but I'm so glad that I found them.